Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. More China nonsense here. Of course, yesterday we did the story on the death simulator, whatever the hell that was. Here is an interesting story about Chinese air travelers. Now, what's going on here is that this year, there have already been 12 attempts, some successful, at opening airplane doors. Maybe they were all successful. But for some reason, Chinese passengers are opening the emergency doors on planes. And why? That is the big question. Some people say that it's a lack of education on flight travel, and it could be people's nerves. There was one guy who opened an emergency door when the plane was taxiing, causing the emergency slide to eject. The crew had to take emergency measures to halt the aircraft. The flight was delayed 4 hours and severely disrupted airport operations because of this. Earlier media reports said that the same man mistakenly raised the handle of the emergency door and was administratively detained for 10 days. So,
what the hell is going on?
Yeah, this is very bizarre. And 11 other times this happened in 2015. But people don't really know why. And it's, this never really happens. I mean, sometimes it happens on U.S. flights, but I feel like that's when the plane is already in the air and you're not really able to open the door anyway. But what are your thoughts on this? Is this just uneducated people or people who are freaking out, or what is it?
Yeah, I if I had to guess, this makes no sense to me. I would guess that it's people who maybe have not flown before and are in some kind of panic, and they try to open the door. But it's just very, very odd, because there are people who have not flown before in most countries. Maybe because of China's recent, economic growth, you have more and more people entering the economic bracket where you can afford to fly, and that's creating a whole new slew of passengers who have not flown, and some of whom panic. But I do not understand what is going on there.
Mm-hmm. One person forcibly opened two emergency doors because he was upset with a flight delay. And one man pulled the handle to open an emergency door to let in fresh air.
Now, I don't know that much, Lewis, but isn't the air probably fresher inside the plane than outside in China? I mean, they have such huge pollution issues.
Yeah, if there's a filter, yes, that would be accurate. Crazy stuff. I can't really explain it, but I guess it does come down to people just being uneducated. I don't know. It's quite strange. Shell has just received conditional approval from the White House to drill for oil and gas in the Arctic. Now, very sad news.
Yeah.
The Arctic is kind of the final frontier when it comes to harvesting oil and destroying everything that you can. They have the ability to destroy everywhere else. Shell really needs to be able to wreak havoc with the environment in the Arctic just to complete its conquest of the world, I think. So I guess this plan has been submitted by Shell. It's been in the works since 2011. And they have been revising the plan with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management since then. And I'm sure they have the utmost concern for the environment. No doubt. What they need more than anything is, I guess, to convince the White House and to convince this Bureau and who knows who else that they have a plan to deal with spills and all of that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they probably also needed to come up with a plan to deal with spills to be able to drill in the Gulf, right?
You would think so.
Or BP did, or whoever. And those plans don't work. So I'm not sure how they can really, what evidence they're going to provide here. It probably doesn't need to be much. I'm sure they can just make up some bullshit and present it, and they'll be well on their way to drilling in the Arctic.
I'm so disheartened by this crap. You know, we always try to have a conversation about here's the impact and here's what can be done and here's data about solar and wind. But at this point, it's so disheartening that now we're going to start drilling for oil in new places now. We have the technology to move away from this. We don't seem to have the political will. We certainly don't have the subsidies to do it. We're going to pollute more. This is one of the few areas left that has not been completely ravaged by industrialization. It's just so off-putting that this is what we continue to do.
Some experts say that they may not have the technology to drill successfully here.
I wonder what drilling unsuccessfully will look like.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that will stop them. This is all about money, and there's a lot of money to be made there. And so I think that they, regardless of whether or not they think they can successfully do this, they're going to try. And I think we can say with certainty, and as many experts are in agreement on this, is that of all places to have a spill or a disaster, this is going to be the most difficult to clean up, if not impossible to clean up. Actually impossible to clean up if there is a disaster. And I mean, I don't need to tell everyone who's listening about the consequences of such a disaster.
Yeah.
So very bad news. Do you think that this is going to happen no matter what, or do you think that there's a chance that we could prevent Arctic drilling?
I would like to tell myself there's a chance, but I honestly am feeling so pessimistic about it that I think more than likely there's going to be Arctic drilling.
Yeah, I think so too. Very sad, but I guess we'll continue to fight and report on it. That's all we can really do. So let's talk about this little emergency we had this morning.
Yeah,
I know that it's a bad sign that when I wake up, I usually wake up half an hour before I start doing pre-production work on the show. When I wake up, and usually I'll have a text message from Dave saying, "Okay, so we'll start at this time. You know, what time are we going to start at?" That's normal. But when I wake up and the messages call me ASAP, I know something has gone terribly wrong. So I'll let you lay this out.
All right. So as people probably know, a couple months ago, Amazon Payments shutting down their service made it so that we had to redesign a new membership payment system. That led to realizing that there were some outdated elements of our website server. So that led to us moving our hosting to a new, more modern server. That led to, over the weekend, doing a migration during which we couldn't do any work on the show because you have to, without getting too technical, and a lot of our audience may know this, when you move one website, like to move davidpakman.com from one physical server to another is easy. But then you need to tell all of the world that davidpakman.com is no longer on that old machine, it's on the new machine, so you need to change what are called the name servers. So because the name servers propagate not at the same time all over the world, the best thing to do is you say, from this point forward, we are no longer making any website changes. You wait until the name server propagation has happened all over the world, and then you start doing website edits. So we did that, everything was fine. Sunday evening, we were able to get in there and start making changes and preparing the show. And because of, call it a mistake from our web developer, call it a glitch, call it an error, call it what you want, all of the work we had done from Sunday up until early this morning at about 4 a.m., which was a lot of work. Think about it. It was planning yesterday's show. It was doing a bunch of work on today's show, a bunch of work on the Friday show, a bunch of interview scheduling. We have this internal wiki-like thing on our server that we use to work on the show, had been sort of reset back to the weekend status, meaning it was all just rolled back and it was just gone. And as a result, this morning we had to scramble to put together, to recreate our interview schedule from emails that Lewis had received, to try to figure out what were the stories that I had bookmarked for today's show. I mean, just complete chaos, Lewis.
Yeah, everything. I mean, everything we do is on this page, and so yeah, all the stories were gone. The bonus show stories were gone. The interview time slots were gone, and we just had to recreate it all. Very quickly. And this isn't the first time this has happened, though, right? I mean, there was another time, somewhat recently, where something similar happened, right? Where we made a bunch of changes and then it reverted back.
That was different. That was with our website runs on WordPress, and there were some specific WordPress posts that had been they were just like templates which had been changed. It was like 10 minutes of work. You know, this was recreating several days worth of work, which was insane to say the least. It's going to be a long evening, I can assure you of that.
It's interesting that we are completely reliant. Well, this goes without saying. We can't do the show without the technology, but even the content of the show and the production of the show, we are completely reliant on this technology. And what if one day this page, this website, ceases to exist? What do you do?
Well, I mean, we have backups. We back up the website, so presumably we'd be able to restore it. Obviously, you can't. I mean, backing it up every day is not really practical.
God comes down from heaven and says, "There is no more David Pakman Wiki. It's done. You can't use it anymore."
Well, that would obviously be really bad.
So what? We go back to having papers in front of us?
No, we would probably have to switch to like a Google Docs type of system or something like that.
No, you can't use any of those. You can't use any of those. You cannot use a computer. You cannot have a computer in front of you to use during the production of the show or to use for pre-production in any way.
Okay, well then the show, I mean, that wouldn't just affect, a lot of shows probably would not exist if you weren't able to use computers anymore. I mean, Lewis, think about what you're saying.
No. Just, we can still collect the stories and do all of that. You can still collect the stories, but you'd have to physically take notes by yourself, and you would have to use the notes you have written to produce the show. I mean, would you still do the show if that were the only option?
I'd rather not think about that scenario. Let's hope that never happens.
All right. It's just destroying Dave's mind to even contemplate. It's too painful. Anything to add today?
Nope, nothing else.
All right. That's it.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.